Greenberg. I'm the head of membership at the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. We are a DC and Brussels-based advocacy organization. We describe ourselves as the voice of the cell and gene therapy sector. We do a little bit of tissue engineering in there as well. We are made up of about 400 organizations. About 45% of those are therapeutic developers. We also have tool and technology and service providers. What makes us unique from some other trade associations is that we also have academic centers and research hospitals, as well as patient advocacy organizations as full members of ARMS represented on the board, so we can really speak for the whole sector. We do a few different things. We convene the sector. Some of you may have been to our meeting on the Mesa, which is in October every year in Phoenix. Our meeting on the Mediterranean is in Rome next month, so if you can make that one happen, I highly recommend it. Advancing the field through data and analytics, we're going to go through some of our data today. We often share that with policymakers and regulators as well as investors. And then the last three things kind of run together. So we engage key stakeholders. That's legislators, regulators, and industry to work together to advance, help you guys make the therapeutics, and then to get those to patients. So we're working on access, we're working on reimbursement models and things like that. We're mostly in the US and the EU. We have offices in both, but we're starting to dip our toe into Asia and to reach that market as well. Before I keep going, I will answer why did they send the membership director to give you this presentation? Much of my job is to make connections. So I will talk to a company who says, hey, we're having this problem with the FDA. And I'll go say, okay, you need to talk to our science and industry team. They'll come to me and say, we need 5 AAV companies in North Carolina for a webinar. And I'll say, I got you now. So it's been good to be here today and hear from you all what you're facing, what you're working on, and be able to take that back to my colleagues. So here's what we're looking at. We'll go through a couple things today. So we'll look at history as a guide to where we can see commercial success for cell and gene therapies. Again, I'll talk in cell and gene because that's our focus. I'll try and narrow into gene when I can. We'll address questions about commercialization, and then we'll talk about why we see an incredibly bright future. So looking at history, we often compare the journey of cell and gene therapies to the journey of monoclonal antibodies. So 1975, the first mAbs generated. 11 years later, you get FDA approval. And then soon thereafter, FDA rejects Syntoxin and everyone gets scared. Investment goes down. People aren't sure if they're going to continue to work in the space. But the folks at IDEC and Biogen really kept after it. And in 97, you saw Rituxan approved. 98 thereafter, you saw Remicade. And by 2002, those had both hit blockbuster status, which is $1 billion in annual revenue. Over the next 20 years, another 150 mAbs were approved in the US and the EU, and last year alone, that brought in $250 billion in annual revenue. Comparing the history of mAbs to the history of cell and gene therapies, I'm going to have my comms team talk with Dr. Samuelski about this whole what happened before 2017 thing, because he did a great talk and we have one thing. So let's just take his 60 years of history or more and start in 2017. You saw the approvals of Luxturna, Kymriah, and Yescarta in the US, followed right after by Zolgensma. Everyone's so excited that in 2019, then Commissioner of the FDA, Gottlieb, predicted that by 2025, we would be seeing 10 to 20 approvals of cell and gene therapies a year. We are on track to hit that. 2021, Zolgensma hits blockbuster status. 22, Yescarta does. 23, we approved 5 gene therapies for rare genetic disorders in 1 year. Last year it was 3, but that was part of a total of 9 cell and gene therapies, including the first 2 cell therapies for solid tumors. Thinking about being in the clinic and getting those approvals, this data was just released from Tufts Newdigs. Gene therapies and durable gene therapies have an 18.5% likelihood of approval once they go into the clinic. That is 2.5 times more likely than all other drugs. So we are seeing that we can get approvals. We can get these things out to market, but do they represent a strong commercial opportunity? The answer to that question is yes. So we talked about Zolgensma and Yescarta hitting blockbuster $1 billion status in 21 and 22. Carvykti and Elevidys are on track to hit that this year, and we're predicting that there could be another 10 by 2030. Success isn't just at the $1 billion level. So this year we had 5 cell and gene therapies with over 500 million in revenue. We're predicting by 2030 that there will be 30 or more. There's 12 of those in that 30 are gene therapies. Looking at patient populations for diseases that are currently out. So severe sickle cell disease, we've got 25,000 listed there as the patient populations in the US and the EU, but we know that 80% of the world's sickle cell patients are outside of the United States. So ARM is working a lot on access with various bodies, both governmental and even with the Vatican has a big interest in this, and we've been working with them. Duchenne muscular dystrophy, 39,000 patients. Dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa, had to work on that one, 9,000 patients. And the Crystal and Castle Creek therapeutic, there is a redosable gene therapy. And then Danon disease, 15 to 30,000 patients. Are large cap biopharma is investing in cell and gene therapies? Yes. So this is, as the end of last month, the biggest biopharma companies by market cap. 12 of these 15 are working in cell and gene therapies. The ones with the little gene on the bottom of them are specifically in gene therapies. We know this because they are members of the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, or we're actively recruiting them to become members. So we are close and engaged with these. The commercial success that comes, a lot of the commercial success you're seeing is coming when there are partnerships between the startups, mid-sized companies, and these large biopharmas. They just have the commercialization experience and the resources and the networks built out. So we've seen it with Novartis and Avexis, Vertex and CRISPR, and Roche and Sarepta. We are expecting to see this year AbbVie and Regenx's product for wet AMD, and Astellas and Aviata Bio's product for frontotemporal dementia. Is it just in the US? No. So that commercial success is global. 35% of the revenue from gene therapies last year came from outside the United States. If you dig in on that, Zolgensma, 68% of their revenue came from outside the US, and Luxturna, it was 58%. If we dig in further on that case study of Zolgensma, Zolgensma is approved in more than 50 countries. It's actually available in 45, and that was really the case of, as many of you have talked about, think about your scale up early. Think about your commercialization models early. Folks at Novartis knew this was going to be big and worked that so that when they were ready to get through trials and get to approvals, the markets were ready to do that and the regulators were ready to do that. Bright future. Why do we say it's bright? Because we're speeding up in development. You all are speeding up in development. So between 2017 and 2022, we saw 5 gene therapies for rare genetic disorders approved. In 2023, we saw 5 in that 1 year. Last year, we saw 3, and the pipeline coming through for 2025 is much higher. So this is looking at potential US and EU gene therapy approvals this year based on what we already know is at FDA for review and for public announcements from companies saying that they're getting ready to file. So we could see up to 14 approvals in the 2 regions this year. Again, it's not just the US. The US does lead in kind of all of the numbers up here, but Asia Pacific and Europe are dug in on this as well. And we are seeing growth despite the headwinds that are out there. We saw a 6% growth in the number of companies working in cell and gene therapies last year, 3% growth in the number of clinical trials, and 30% growth in the amount of investment. That investment is coming from all different spaces, including public financing, Venture capital, a big one that just happens, that's not on here, is Tune Therapeutics did $175 million round earlier this year. And then acquisitions, again, going back to this story of the big companies getting involved. Novartis was interesting there for a little while because there were rumors they were going to get out of the cell and gene therapy space, and then they turned around and bought Kate. And everybody went, oh, okay, they're still here. We're going to keep playing with this. What we see next on the horizon is gene therapies and cell therapy, for prevalent diseases. So we've already got sickle cell, but if we start looking at wet AMD, that's the Regenexx AbbVie product that's at phase 3, 5.7 million population. AskBio's Parkinson's product, 10 million population worldwide, MS, and type 1 diabetes. So we are looking at products coming forward in all of these big diseases in the near future. So I did that really fast. Okay, so what do we know from this? History provides us a guide. We can see that it has been done before, despite everybody getting scared and then coming back to the market, and the blockbusters are coming. We see this, they're lined up to hit this year and in the coming years, and the breakthroughs are going to be coming soon into these more prevalent diseases. If we have time, I'm happy to take questions. I will warn you, I am a political scientist, so that's your background.